So I'm here with Brianna the Bull Van Buren. Brianna, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. I saw an interview you did before the Teacher Torres fight saying you wanted to stay active. Obviously, things changed. So how have you been keeping during the pandemic?
Yeah, everything has been great. Um, I've just been hanging out with family and, I decided to take this time to um, basically just stop and reflect for a quick moment and then, yeah, mainly just hang out with family and, you know, I felt like ever since the Invicta tournament that I did. Like it was just go, go, go. And I wanted to keep myself busy even through the pandemic, but it was a little tricky, especially with, everything that's going on. It was just weird from, training partners to, you know, um, yeah, just different.
Yeah. So obviously the elephant in the room, you are pregnant at the moment. Congratulations.
Thank
Have
you.
you spoken to any other fighters who are mums about how to balance that, or is it too early for that?
Um, Not necessarily. I don't think I have spoken to any are you're talking about moms that are fighting, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I haven't really spoke to anyone specifically. Just kind of been, you know, taking it as it is and enjoying the moment of being pregnant.
Good. Yeah. Obviously, it's too early to judge about how you think you're gonna balance that life, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, so the good thing is I have a strong support system, but everybody says you don't really know until you actually go through it, right? So and what I mean by that is basically I have a really strong support system. My family is just, they're beyond excited and, I live literally right across the street from my mother-in-law. So it's like I think I will have the help. You know, but as far as getting back to training and, I hope everything goes smooth, right? In a perfect world, with labor and, as far as right now leading up to it, everything has been, baby's healthy, I'm healthy. Um, so in a perfect world, ideally, I would like to get back the by the end of summertime this year or, early winter.
The end of summer, that seems pretty soon. That seems quite a quick turnaround.
Yeah.
About your
I'm go ahead.
No, you go ahead, you're fine.
I'm thinking, and that's the thing. I'm due April 7th. So I'm hoping again, like I said, like if everything goes smoothly, I would want to fight ideally. And the end of summer, which to me, the end of summer is like uh September, early fall, I guess, or October,
Yeah.
that would be ideal. But like I said, it's all in God's timing. So all I can do is just enjoy this pregnancy and take it day by day.
Talk a bit about your upbringing and then how you came to find martial arts, because you found wrestling first, didn't you?
Um, Actually, no. I started off with so my uncle Anthony Figueroa, who fought for Strikeforce. He was a Strikeforce vet. Um, so he was an MMA fighter. And after I would see him train, and I was kind of motivated and got inspired by him to do kickboxing. So I actually never really wanted to wrestle or grapple. I just wanted to kickbox for the longest time. And so he would basically say, well, if you want to learn how to kickbox, you got to learn how to wrestle and, and do jujitsu. Like you have to learn to do everything. And so I was like, okay, I don't know if I really want to do that. excuse me. And what do you call it? So I was playing soccer, and then one year I went out to the wrestling team. And this was, I was already training kickboxing, but I was doing it for fitness. Okay. So then I went out, I believe it was the end of freshman year, right after soccer season was over, but it was during the same time as wrestling. Um, Went in there, and there was no girls. It was just a room full of guys. So I was like, it was a little intimidating. So I was like, I don't know, and then talked to my uncle, talked to the wrestling coach, and my sophomore year I started to wrestle. And then that's just like from then on, like I basically just never really looked back and fell in love with martial arts.
Am I right in saying you wrestled at Gilroy High?
Correct. Yeah.
Which is obviously quite famous in MMA right now because of obviously Daniel Cormier is coaching there.
Yeah. At the time, it was Coach Greg, Coach Mondo, and then there was Coach Marty also at the time, and then now we have DC taking over the Gilroy High Wrestling.
What lessons have you learned from DC? Because obviously you trained together at AKA as well.
That's a really good question. The lessons that I've learned from DC is he's beyond inspiring, but I would say one of the biggest lessons I've learned from him is just to work hard, continuously to just work hard. And then I think, that moment will come for you. Don't be so quick to be in a rush. That was probably one of the biggest lessons I learned from him.
Talk about training at AKA, as we just said. How intense is that environment with so many world-class fighters, world champions under the same roof?
I'm thankful that Anthony had brought me into the AKA room at a very young age. I was like maybe, I want to say 14, 15, maybe 15, 16. But he brought me in at a very young age. So I think I was starstruck early, knowing that knowing that I just got to train with my uncle, let alone, because at the time, like I looked at him like, oh my God, my uncle's this professional fighter. And, he was like, he was somebody who I was inspired by, all the time. He was like my own personal hero in a sense, if that makes sense. So let alone just to kind of train with him and be alongside with him, it was very how do I say it? It was very humbling, but it was also very it was motivating. So then to be around these other guys, not gonna lie, in the beginning it was a little intimidating because they're very loud, and then I was the only girl going in there, and and I was just like, do I just stay in this corner? What do I do? So it was very intimidating in the beginning, but as it progressed and as I was, there consistently, it was like now I just see them all as like my brothers.
What is Javier Mendez like as a coach?
He's a great coach. He knows a lot, but yeah, the best thing that I can say about Coach Hav is he's a phenomenal coach. He's a good coach. I mean, it clearly speaks for itself. He has a bunch of world champions coming out of that gym. You got Khabib, you got Luke Rockhold, you got who else? DC, Cain Velasquez. I mean, the list goes on, so yeah.
All right. Just moving on a bit, you're 1-1 in the UFC at the moment. How did you find that jump moving up from Invicta to the UFC?
How did I find that jump? What do you mean?
Did you notice a big difference in the level of quality of your opponents, or was it fairly smooth? Did you notice an increase in pressure, things like that?
I didn't notice an increase in pressure. I think it actually it's weird how this all works out. Like it was just perfect timing in a sense, you know. It went like the transition went very smooth over cuz I fought somebody for my pro debut. I fought somebody who was you know, the Invicta champion before. So that made it a little bit smooth. And then, you know, I wanted to challenge myself, which is why I accepted the fight with Tisha Torres. And I mean, she didn't stop me or anything, you know. It was, you know, I lost by going the decision. So it was a very smooth transition.
Good. Did you notice, like, you mentioned the increase in pressure. Do you think some of that was because you were coming in as the Invicta champion?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that one more time?
You mentioned the increase in pressure. Do you think that's a lot of that is because you were coming in as the Invicta champion?
Mm,
Do you feel more pressure because of that? Do you think?
no, not at all. I didn't I didn't feel any pressure going in to you're talking about when I made my UFC debut, correct?
Yeah, the Livia Hinata Souza fight.
Yeah. No, there wasn't any pressure at all, to be honest with you. It was one of those things where it was like it was perfect how it worked out. I was training. I was kind of like I was kind of expecting them to call me. My coach Anthony Figueroa had, you know, he was like, okay, well, they're gonna call. They're gonna call. Like even before the Invicta, you know, tournament, they were like, he was telling me they're gonna call. Like we just have to be ready. They're gonna call. And, you know, literally, I think right after that fight, it was like, hey, do you want to fight Livia? And it was like, this is perfect. She was an Invicta champion, you know, and I think she had won her last UFC fight before me. So
Yeah.
it was perfect. Yeah, it was perfect. Everything just transitioned smoothly. So it all worked out for me that night.
Talk to me about the Invicta tournament because I'm just fascinated about that sort of environment.
Yeah, it's funny because I think I was just talking to my mother-in-law yesterday about it. That was like one of the like to me that is probably one of the biggest special like one of the most special moments to date was that Invicta tournament. You know, because it was like I went in there, I feel like being like the underdog in a sense, you know, like nobody knew who I was, but you had a couple of UFC vets in there, you know, so um, it it was it was cool to kind of go in there and then get, you know, some finishes and then you know you know come home with a belt. Like it was just perfect. Everything went smooth that night. And you know the vision, like I remember, you know, going to sleep and just visualizing and you know just thinking about it, like almost like you're what's the word uh what's the word I'm looking for, um you're almost like it became like an obsession, like you know, like you visualize it every day all throughout camp and just seeing it and believing it. And you know, and then it finally comes into fruition and you're like, it's a dream come true in a sense, you know. So it was awesome. It was a good night, definitely.
You mentioned obviously some UFC vets in that tournament. You had quite a tough road because you fought obviously Juliana Lima and then you fought Kyle and Karen in the final and you actually finished her. So do you think coming in as the underdog with possibly the toughest route to the final as well, does that make you a bit more proud of how you did in that tournament?
Um, it does. I think what made it more proud was seeing everything come together. What everyone doesn't see. Like, and what I mean by this is like, you know, my family wanting it just as bad as I wanted it. My coaches seeing it and wanting it just as bad as I wanted it. My husband, you know, seeing it and wanting it as bad, just as bad as I wanted it. And so seeing all of that and then knowing that I wanted it even more. And then it coming, into fruition was like a dream come true.
So obviously in your how do you notice after the first fight in the tournament, is there an adrenaline dump? Is it hard to hype yourself up again to go again?
I think the hardest part was keeping your composure.
Oh, yeah.
And just knowing like my coach Anthony, he kept me level headed all throughout the whole entire night. Because it was like, okay, I beat the first girl by armbar, and then it was like, okay, like what, we got one done, but we're not done. We got a couple more to go. Like, instead of what I noticed was a lot of the girls were like, yeah, we won, and they celebrated. And then for me, I was like, we're not done, so that was awesome.
Obviously moving forward to the Tisha Torres fight, that was obviously June of last year, I believe. So how was training during the pandemic affected going into that fight?
Honestly, I don't want to even use the pandemic as like an excuse of of a loss. I took my licks. She beat me fair and square, that night. It was her night. But I'm sure we're gonna cross paths again. Especially if, her goal is to get that strap. My goal is to get that strap too. So I'm sure we'll end up, seeing each other. But it actually kept me grounded in a sense. Like with the whole pandemic, it allowed me to, my partners were there, but I think I needed more partners, if that makes sense. Or not. I don't know. That's just what I thought after the fight. It was just different. The whole thing leading up to it, I'm so used to having my husband there, and he stayed at a different hotel, and everything was just different, the whole thing. But I wouldn't necessarily, I can't say it was the pandemic's fault because of my loss, if that makes sense.
Was it weird having that fight with no fans, or do you just not really notice things like that?
I didn't really notice, to be honest with you. It kind of I kind of thought of it back in the Invicta days, or even like before the Invicta days, being an amateur and not having that many people in the, stands. But it wasn't weird. If anything, you heard like the kicks and stuff. It's weird because I don't really hear the crowd when I'm going in there to fight. The only person that I hear is Anthony Figueroa, and that's my head coach. And that's the only thing. Even with sparring too, like when I'm going rounds and stuff, the only person that I hear is my coach. So it was kind of just, it wasn't weird. It wasn't any different for me. It was, it was fine. It was just, I lost fair and square.
Looking in from the outside, because obviously you're not fighting at the moment, what do you make of the current strength of your division?
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
I'm just looking in from the outside. What do you make of the current strength of your division?
Can you clarify? What do you mean?
What do you think of the fighters ranked above you? Who do you think you need to fight next to try and progress to where you want to be?
I definitely need to fight somebody I like the challenge. I like the fact of fighting somebody who is a top 10, even a top 15. This is a lot to ask for, especially being pregnant, but going in my next fight, I would, love to fight somebody who's at least in the top 15. That's going to take me where I need to go. But I don't know. It doesn't matter who it is, I they can all, we can all, yeah. I can't really talk right now because it's like I'm pregnant. I'm sitting on the
Yeah.
sidelines, you know, so I can't really say, oh, I want to fight this person, but you know, they can all, any of the top 15ers, you know, it'd be awesome to fight any of them.
Yeah. There's also been a bit of talk recently about the UFC bringing in the atomweight division as one of the smaller girls in the strawweights. Do you think that's something you could possibly do one day?
Maybe, possibly. I could definitely see it. I seen it with I remember telling Coach Ant when I was signed with Invicta and I won the belt, I said, if we don't get picked up from the UFC, I'm moving down to atom weight and I'm taking the strap at 105s. And then, you know, we'll see, we'll go from there. But um, uh, I kind of heard about it, but once they do it, then, you know, we'll see. But as of right now, moving forward, the goal is to pop this baby out and, you know, get that strawweight title and then go from there.
Just quickly, while you're relaxing, because obviously you've had some spare time on your hands at the minute, who are some of your favorite fighters to watch and learn from?
Some of my favorite fighters to watch and learn from. Hmm. Let's see.
You gonna throw
Justin
DC in
Gaethje.
there?
DC is definitely up there.
Yeah.
Yeah. DC is definitely up there. He's beyond inspiring to watch, and you know, just to watch him train and be alongside with him. Um, Aside from DC, I could probably say, um, you know, Adam Antolin, which is my teammate. He does not fight for the UFC, um, but he's pretty badass. You know, everybody that I'm so blessed. Like the people that I train with or that I see day in day out. They're such hard workers that I enjoy being around that. But it's weird because a lot of people had always asked me, who's your favorite UFC fighter? And I don't know if I have one, you know. I really don't know if I have one. I feel like the people that I'm around, they push me, and you know, they're my favorite fighters. That might sound very cheesy, but it's the honest truth.
All right. I want to thank you for the time today, Brianna. Best of luck with everything you've got going on, and can't wait to see you back in the octagon soon.
Okay, well, thank you. We'll chat soon. Have a
Yeah.
good day.
Thanks. Bye.